This event has got a good reputation, and people are kind of in the habit of coming down here. So unless the weather was just awful all day, I'm sure we'll have a crowd pretty typical for this event, 60, 70,000 throughout the day.
Steve Carlisle on a song that was done by the Beatles.
The show is a rain or shine show, so we don't stop. The mayor was down here today, and they discussed everything for today, but we're still on. Everything is on.
And if it doesn't come up to the volume standards that I'm going to set now, we're going to keep doing this song until you get...
That old saying, make hay while the sun shines, is taken seriously on the Laveau Dairy Farm in Renshaw. But there's been too little sun and too much rain this spring, and this weekend's downpour did not help matters. Now faced with crops underwater, Peter Laveau and his mother Ramona are worried. They count on their hay and corn crops to feed their cattle through the winter.
But this is by far the worst. At least the other years it rained and it would quit, and when it did rain, it didn't rain so heavily. But this year it's raining all the time and so heavy when it does rain that it's really is bad.
I mean, you couldn't even walk out there right now. It'd go up to your knees or over your ankles, I know, and you couldn't even walk out there, so anywhere.
Normally, by the 4th of July, Laveau would be done harvesting his hay crop, but it's just too wet and he hasn't even started. The longer he has to wait, the lower the quality. By now, Laveau's corn should be knee-high, but thanks to the excessive rains, many of his fields have 4 to 6 inches of standing water. The family says the crop is a total loss. And that means hard times are ahead. Laveau will have to buy hay and corn to feed his cattle come this winter to make up for the loss. And with farmers in southern Minnesota and Iowa also suffering crop damage, the prices are expected to skyrocket.
It makes a difference through the winter. If we have to buy the corn from the feed mill and our grain from the feed mill, it's another bill we got that we got to come up with the money to make payments.
Laveau says the flooding problems could also drive up milk prices. For now, the family is relying on last year's harvest to feed their cattle, hoping it holds out for at least another month. At the same time, hoping the rains hold off. In Renshaw, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
Would be revoked because they're seen as barriers to trade, and this has already happened
in Mexico and Canada, and I'd like to second your
far worse if we can't agree on environmental issues.
And they're not with decent wages, and it's only support the government.
And what this trade agreement is going to do is seriously degrade that environment, particularly along our borders.
We center our program around acid rain.
Oh, you do? So
This is our 6th year.
has all the criteria we were looking for as far as size and accessibility, and a lot of natural beauty. It's just
It's terrible down there. They've had people in shelters for a month, and the best estimate that they can get is there's a lot of people that probably won't be out of a shelter for another 6 to 8 weeks, and some of those people will not be in their homes until the first of the year. And if people are interested in helping, we can work around their schedules and we can assist them in getting there. And we'll provide the training, we'll provide the transportation to and from, and the lodging and food while they're there.
Even if it's over a year late, they might not find things they would have if they would have done it immediately. But we've learned from it now, and hopefully the local and state officials will look at it differently next time.
We're not particularly interested in putting our company out on strike because it might shut down, it might not. But if they refuse to do anything and worse comes to worse, I guess they leave us no other choice.
Keeping the Iron Range taconite industry alive rests on making the product more competitive. Through the past several months, a group of lawmakers and industry experts has been looking for the best way to do that. The consensus was research is the key.
The Permanent University Trust Fund, here again, we want to work cooperatively.
Federal and state lawmakers got together in Duluth today to announce the establishment of the funding for that research.
We all also have a feeling in this region that we've got to be looking a little bit longer into the future. And I think that that's one of the keys that these resources are going to provide us.
The funding contributions break down this way. The federal government will be a significant contributor if Congress approves these funds when it reconvenes in September. Congressman Jim Oberstar is confident he'll get the money because he knows the range industry has a viable future.
I emphasize that the future of the Iron Range is ahead of us, not behind us. And the reserves are still there. The challenge for us is to make those reserves of ore competitive.
The first step toward that competitiveness is a major research project already underway to some extent at UMD's Natural Resources Research Institute. Scientists are working toward reducing the silica content of range taconite pellets, thereby making the product purer.
Of course, this isn't a sure thing, because research is never a sure thing. But we hope we'll make taconite competitive and be a shot in the arm to the economy of this region.
Experts expect to have results from the research within about 2 years, and they're anticipating new techniques will be utilized almost immediately they're developed. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
winter, what's he going to do? He'll be furloughed. Or we're trying to tell the Burlington Northern that our employees would like to work closer to home like they used to under previous agreements. Under the imposed 219 conditions, an employee on a gang like this cannot bid back to home even if the jobs are in his backyard.
An Ice Capades touring group was supposed to begin skating at the deck today. Instead, crews were pulling ice after immigration officials denied visas to the group's Canadian and Russian skaters.
It took everybody by surprise, especially the Ice Capades. We were all set. Ice was in for the rehearsals, and we found out yesterday that they were having trouble getting their people in.
Realizing the show must go on, the group was forced to move its training site to Toronto, where they'll practice for their premiere performance in Tulsa, at the same time continuing to work out the immigration issue. This is just the latest problem in what's been a disruptive year for the Ice Capades. Recently purchased by Olympic superstar Dorothy Hamill, the company has revamped its entire show, focusing on more traditional skating featuring Olympic performers.
So when they went to that format, they let a lot of skaters go, basically American, and when they replaced them with Canadian and Russian skaters, immigration officials are saying, hey, wait a minute, we're going to take a look at this.
Russell says the dispute could force the Ice Capades to fire the foreign skaters and replace them with Americans if the company wants to perform in American cities. Meanwhile, the Ice Capades' other touring company, which has premiered in Duluth for over 2 decades, is expected to begin training here within the next 2 weeks. Though they haven't heard anything to the contrary, DEC officials admit the immigration decision could pull the ice out from under that company as well. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
Well, I was surprised. I didn't think I would get one, but it's a good feeling because you know you did good.
Pull it back, nice and steady, let it fly.
The Kids Plus group is from the Northland Foundation, and they've decided to give us a little money to throw a fun event like this for the West Duluth community, and kids are out here enjoying it.
Aid Association for Lutherans is the largest fraternal organization in the country. They're also one of the largest individual contributors to natural disaster relief efforts nationwide, including a multi-million-dollar grassroots fundraising effort last year for the victims of Hurricane Andrew.
At that time, our company came out with $500,000 to be matched nationwide, and we ended up raising over $3.5 million just through all the local churches and churches throughout the country doing these little benefits on their own. And then that $3.5 million was sent down to Florida and Louisiana.
This summer, AAL is holding the same kind of fundraising effort for the victims of Midwestern flooding, including a polka benefit dance tomorrow night. There is no required donation amount. They're just asking you give what you can.
Well, you know, a lot of people do like to give, and they do like to help.
but it's in a small way sometimes, but you know, they come across really great when they know somebody is organizing it. So AAL's done a lot of those things. We've had a lot of fun doing them too.
AAL will match all donations made at tomorrow's dance. Jill Enball, News 6.
We have hopes that this will be significant commerce in the future. However, that's very difficult to predict due to the global competitive situation in the coal market.
We think that the money we contribute is well spent. We think that the programs funnel the money to people that are seriously in need, and we think that they administer their programs in a cost-effective manner.
Hopefully we can delay the city council on their project to go ahead with this mall and work with the community and have a more recreation in that area.
Making our high bridge a better driving experience than ever. It'll be wider, brighter, and better. And if you're wondering how to cross the bay in the meantime, take it from me, the traveling bug, and take the easy-to-see 535 detour.
And to constantly remind people that both Superior and Duluth are open for business, that you can, in fact, get there from here.
Okay, so you've been living in your closet for a year and you haven't heard the Blotnick Bridge is closing for reconstruction. Well, during the next year...
It just turns over so many times, and some of these agencies and the small amount of money that the United Way can actually donate to these agencies, the worth that they get out of the money is just incredible. And I'm a firm believer, and I have been for many years, that $1 donated to the United Way goes a lot further than, as far as I'm concerned, any other agency that may solicit donations.
If you don't give them to your neighbors.
Maddie, congratulations.
Thank you.
And winning the tracker.
Thank you.
Can you tell me?
Why were you gonna?
I was gonna call it down on my house. Oh, well, unless you wanna store them, why don't you go ahead and store them? Okay. The way.
Right.
And end up winning a vehicle, you probably come up every year now.
Brand new car, isn't this
Hey, I'll
wonderful?
guarantee you something. She'll buy a ticket next year. And if you win it 2 years in a row, they're gonna think something's funny.
This is home anyway.
Short of it is that hopefully we want to keep this river system basically the way it is today. And if there isn't a plan, I really don't feel that is going to happen.
The cones that you see are the closest that the bayfront stores will get to the water. We're about 400, a little over 450 feet away from the water where I'm standing right now. Our intent is not to put the bayfront stores on the water and on the waterfront. They're going to be back as to where you see them right now.
The corner of Stebner Road and Highway 53 was set to be the site of Hermantown's latest movie theater. However, if Duluth Airport Authority officials have their way, the $750,000 structure may never see completion. That's because officials say the theater is being built within the airport's safety zone. But Hermantown officials disagree with that interpretation of the ordinance.
The process that's used is you look at the map and you see where the project is located, and this was clearly within the accepted parcels. And then the map also says that it's exempt from the restrictions that are now being imposed upon it.
Airport Authority officials went to court today hoping to gain a temporary restraining order to stop construction. But after meeting with a St. Louis County judge and representatives of the Cinema Entertainment Corporation, the group has agreed to wait until next Thursday to file for the injunction. Meanwhile, construction on the theater will continue on a limited basis.
The money's been spent and the costs incurred and the workers scheduled, and if the process were to just come to a complete halt, it could, even for a week right now at a critical stage, it might snow next week and we might, be pushed way off to next spring.
Nils says if the injunction is granted, it would be a major blow to the company.
It would be disastrous. I mean, it would destroy this project. It would have effects that would be catastrophic for the company.
But catastrophe is exactly what Airport Authority officials say they are trying to prevent by stopping construction in the airport safety zone. In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Democratic side. On the Democratic side, there's right now, I think, N124 and Tom Berg are the two leading candidates. On the Republican side, it's wide open right now, but I would think somebody like Congressman Ramstad, Jonelle Deerstead, or potentially somebody like Rudy Boschwitz.
Oh, I feel great. I would do it 100 times over again. You know, because it's no, all you have to do is open your mouth and ask people. The worst they can do is say no, and then you're in the same spot that you were in to begin with.
She raised over $700 today all by herself, and the walk for her was a real challenge. She was in quite a serious accident a number of years ago, and for her to do this 3.5 miles was wonderful.
They feel very, very let down with the circumstances, the way that they've been transpiring. As you're probably all aware, that we've done a lot of work with the company, and for the company to turn their back on these folks is something that they just don't understand.
Processing cost of $84 up to $131. That's largely related.
That's the result of a lot of work by a lot of people, not only here at the district, but we've had assistance from the outside also.
The Duluth Medical Complex crouches on the hillside, an impressive symbol of record growth that has made the industry the #1 private employer in the city. The medical leaders who have guided this growth, like Dr. Phil Ekman of the Duluth Clinic, are concerned that it may be stopped by the Clinton Health Plan.
Healthcare reform, no matter how it ends up, will certainly have some leveling off effect in the healthcare industry.
The medical industry accounts for nearly 17% of the total wages in Duluth. That is significantly higher than the statewide average. But the goal of the Clinton Health Plan is to cut medical costs.
Institutions like the Duluth Clinic will be most affected by the fact that patients will no longer go directly to a specialist. They must first go to a primary care physician or family doctor who would order a specialist if needed.
Primary care physicians make less money than specialists, and that saves money. Another savings comes from a reduction in expensive procedures and duplicated services. A doctor would no longer make more for more procedures being used. But these very savings could spell doom for small hospitals.
We have concerns that without perhaps special provisions for rural providers, we may see hospitals closing. We may see communities that really are not going to have access to physicians or other types of healthcare providers.
The Duluth Clinic is already positioning itself by adding primary care physicians and satellite clinics outside Duluth.
We believe that to the extent that it's possible, health care through the whole spectrum for the people of our region should be obtained and delivered right here in the region. It doesn't need to be sent out to the Twin Cities.
Critical to the discussion is how the plan will be paid for. A plan similar to Medicare reimbursement would penalize this area because of our low costs and older population. Those details must come from the President and the congressional debate which will follow. In Duluth, Dave Jench, News 6.
Bye-bye. Thank you for holding, ma'am. Okay, you had an inquiry about the prices on wash machines?
Jim Balcom runs a used appliance sales and repair business with his wife and 2 full-time employees and a fluctuating number of part-timers. The Balcoms watched with shock last year as MinCare, the prototype for the Clinton Health Plan, resulted in a coverage reduction and a 30% hike in costs for their already expensive employee insurance plan. They are afraid the Clinton plan will bring more of the same.
And it's real scary because the premiums are hiked and they're telling you designated doctors, places, things you can go if you already have You need to see doctors outside the network. It's practically impossible to get an okay in order to do that. So it's kind of frightening. And the fact that we may need to, we're a small business, our employees rate vary anywhere from 8 employees up to 12. And the idea that we would have to cover everyone on the policy, it's like we can barely afford our own premiums.
The Clinton plan is expected to ask employers to pay at least some insurance costs for part-timers. Companies that do not provide insurance for full-time employees would now have to. Larger companies with generous health coverage plans can expect to pay more for fewer benefits. The promise to all, of course, is proper management will save in the long run by controlling medical costs and keeping skyrocketing premiums from rising anymore.
Profanity. It was bleeped when I was a child. It is neither the public, major advertisers, or conscientious station managers want this type of debased programming in their communities.
We've got a number of people here from out of town. We had calls from people from St. Paul this week asking for directions, and some people came from Minneapolis and talked to me, so we've got people from the entire area coming here today.
475.
Do you like sweet or tough?
For the last 3 or 4 years, National and Evelyn mines have come up over and over again as the mines to be shut down next, so we don't want to give them any more of an excuse than they already have.
I want the city to quit fighting and quit spending city dollars to fight this thing and sit down and negotiate it. I've tried to negotiate with that city for a long time, and every time I turn around to try to negotiate with them, they come up with some off-the-wall concept to sig their attorneys on me. Why don't they give it up?
How much are you gonna need for 10? Just like 30 seconds stop.
There is a hunger in this city for more cooperation and less bickering, with more cooperation within City Hall, more cooperation with our county and state governments, more cooperation with our sister city Duluth and our sister state Minnesota.
Okay, if you want to get some cut shots.
Can usually buy each other a beer. I mean, that was kind of wisdom or philosophy behind that. If you're going to beat somebody, you want to make
Or fighting, you know, especially her face. Or
we want the blinders to come off, that these beatings do occur and will occur in the future. The gang's control by the use and threat of force.
The trust that the community has in the effectiveness of Head Start, and that's why we have continually 65 to change those statistics, to change those odds.
As early as they might have been, and so the goal right now is to try to help low-income families who don't have the resources necessarily for other opportunities that are available in their communities, and that we can provide that for them.
Where a not production manager was a local union contract. Second arrow on the screen.
Lake Superior means different things to different people. To shippers, its focus is economic. To anglers, it's the sport and commercial fishing. To nature lovers and tourists, Lake Superior is something to look at in admiration or awe. All these considerations come together as the Great Lakes Commission considers how best to protect this vital natural resource.
Our job is to develop consensus among our member states with input from the broader Great Lakes community, and then bring our recommendations and our advocacy work to Congress, to federal agencies, to the administration.
Some of the major concerns the Commission is looking at during this meeting include taking a close look at the shipping industry. Great Lakes Commission member states want to make sure the valuable industry continues to produce, but they also want to make sure the lake is protected.
It's a fact that an accident can happen, and we want to be prepared in the event that an accident does happen to take care of it, to avoid a situation such as happened in Alaska several years ago.
Other major discussions during the week will include plans to try to reduce the number of foreign aquatic pests invading the Great Lakes. In this area, the rough fish from Europe has become the most common species in the St. Louis River.
It's affecting the game fish, and we need to make sure that it doesn't get transported elsewhere.
The Great Lakes Commission can't implement policy, but when its 8 member states agree on a course of action, it makes for a very powerful lobbying voice to get what it wants. On Lake Superior's waterfront, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Happens, I believe, is that when there aren't job opportunities on the range, people tend to relocate to Duluth, and with there being generally low-paying job opportunities, if any, here, then that puts more of a burden on the Duluth area efforts in the same area.
The situation on the Iron Range is not new to the area. Many local relief agencies were opened 10 years ago to cope with mine closures. And the problem is not confined to the Iron Range. The sellout of Duluth's diamond tool will cost 250 local jobs and potentially leave 250 families without a breadwinner.
Now we see less transients. We see more of the people who are part of our community, what we call the working poor, or generally the poor of all natures. And we're seeing a lot more families, and particularly a lot more children that are coming to Mission.
This trend is distressing to local officials, many of whom thought the hunger relief organizations would operate on a temporary basis. But that is not the case. Hunger in Duluth and the Northland remains high after a decade of relief efforts.
In Duluth, hunger shows itself off to us by families that walk their children 10 to 12 blocks for a soup and sandwich. It shows itself off by parents that skip meals so that their children can eat, and by families that at the end of the month that have too much month left when their resources run out.
And it is that need that is causing local officials to call out to the public as winter grows near. They know their dwindling supplies will soon need to be replenished, perhaps on a larger scale.
Well, they're gonna have somewhere to come. They're gonna eat something.
Well, I need it. If it wasn't here, you know, I'd be, I don't know where I'd be. I'm a homeless person, okay, definitely. There are a lot of people like me.
In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
I took these from a young gentleman in the police station the other day who was about 6 or 7.
I wonder how much further this is going to go. I wonder, are my children going to be the next ones?
It's a semi-automatic, but it can easily be, if you know what you're doing, it can be converted to a fully automatic weapon.
Think gang violence only happens in big cities? Think again. Superior police officers confiscated this display of weaponry from local kids. Evidence gang violence has made its way into the Northland. Mayor Herb Berkson says the mayors of Milwaukee and Madison warned him 3 years ago of the trouble ahead.
We should expect those gangs to move out from their cities and get into the smaller cities, and if we didn't prepare, it was going to be devastating.
And while Bergson says the city has been preparing, help is needed. Today, State Senator Bob Jauch joined concerned citizens, police, and a variety of other groups to brainstorm on how to cope with juvenile crime. Some are demanding more police effort. Others are calling on the community for help.
Stated that there is a problem, that violence is on an increase, but that it's still controllable. And that if we as a community desire to keep it in control and we unite and make a commitment to solve it, we'll get it solved.
But Superior Police say those solutions may not come without tougher juvenile laws. Superior Police Chief Doyle Barker says local ordinances and a change in the court system are needed to help control the situation. Meanwhile, Mayor Berkson says he plans to ask for state aid in order to put more officers on the streets. And while the problem is getting more attention, for now, parents are left worrying.
It makes me wonder if my children are ever going to be safe again in Superior.
In Superior, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
See, what his dad did was ship the mother and the children to the neighboring farm that was not burning. And he stayed on a plowed field and survived there and watched the whole place go down in flames.
The Great Fires scorched Minnesota towns and countryside from Moose Lake to Floodwood and even north of Duluth. At least 450 men, women, and children perished in the flames and the smoke. And for those who survived, the memories still remain strong.
And just when it was getting the closest, I just screamed and prayed. And the wind changed, and we were safe.
Events commemorating the fire's 75th anniversary are being held throughout this week in Moose Lake, giving family members and actual survivors a chance to remember or experience some of the historical disaster. It's a time when stories are easily recalled.
He and his brother had the job of helping to dig the mass grave for all of the victims of the fire. So he remembered it very vividly, and he used to tell us, his children, we grew up in New York State, about the fire and what an experience it was.
Oh, it's very interesting. It's remarkable to be able to collect so many stories and from survivors and relatives of survivors.
Still standing after the flames were snuffed out was Moose Lake's old Sioux Line depot. It will soon be restored into a museum, documenting the great fires, telling its stories long after the whispers of its memory have died. In Moose Lake, Duke Scorridge, News 6. The chairman of the range delegation fired the first volley in the war of words with the governor.
I find it difficult here to watch the governor offer economic incentives to settle a labor dispute.
Range legislators say the governor did not brief them about his $25 million plan for National. Most refused to meet Carlson when he arrived in Hibbing to explain it. The governor quickly put to rest any notion National will get special treatment.
But our first goal as an administration is to keep jobs in Minnesota. And whatever services we make available to one, we intend to make available for all.
The governor's proposal includes about $6 million in taxpayer money. Other funds will come from already established public sources and private investment. In Hibbing, Duke Scorridge, News 6.
Small pieces of the light plane lie throughout the woods and spread across 2 gravel roads that intersect about a mile off Lake Superior and 2 miles east of Herbster. A police line protects the accident site as investigators pick through the wreckage looking for clues.
It's in pretty bad shape. It took off some trees on its way down and hit the road and bounced and burned.
The Federal Aviation Administration is assisting the National Transportation Safety Board in trying to find out what happened.
I want to look at the wreckage as nearly undisturbed as possible, and the unseen portion I must do immediately.
The investigators expect to remain at the accident scene for about 2 days before the wreckage is cleared and the roads reopened. After that, they'll check on the pilot's record and see what kind of shape the plane was in before the accident. They'll also talk with witnesses, some of whom have told authorities they saw the plane backfire and heard the engine sputter before it went down beneath the trees. When the plane is small, like this one was, there's no black box to rely on. And in this case, there's no pilot or passenger to ask what happened. Federal investigators will use physical evidence to discover what they can about the accident, but what really happened here may never be known. Near Herbster, Wisconsin, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Happy, relieved. It's just been a real tense time, and I guess we're just happy and satisfied that justice has been done. But it won't bring her back. But justice is done.
Second, you should all have a copy of the large fat packet, new laws. The whole time about what those new laws were, but because I mailed when somebody wants to pass a
If you have police who arrest for violations of orders for protection or harassment restraining orders, if you have prosecutors who charge harassment crimes as well as assaults where both of them have occurred, that kind of thing, then the law means something. And in the absence of those things, the law doesn't do much.
We'd be irresponsible if we didn't try.
But we can't look back and say, well, gee, we had a big spill, nobody got hurt, nobody died. The fact is that we have to be prepared for the next one. And I think that's what we're doing. We're looking forward, we're not looking back.
Types of material that they may haul, that doesn't mean if they
There's light on black. With the budget crunches, no, that will not help at that.
We're looking forward to having it available during the 1993 deer season, so we can look for those Twin Cities hunters that come up and get lost in the great North Country.
Give it a try to see what happens.
Recent federal and state increases account for about 10 cents of the price hike, but no one can explain why diesel fuel has gone as high as it has in recent weeks. Nationwide, prices vary as much as 30 cents per gallon, with Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan appearing to have among the highest rates. Whatever the reason, it's hitting independent truckers hard.
Takes a little groceries off the table. You know, you just can't afford to really do anything.
It's really hard to make ends meet, and when you go to fix on the truck, it takes money away from the family and stuff, and that's not easy.
While the big trucking companies are feeling the pinch, it's the independent trucker who is really worried at this point.
The prices stay this way for a couple of months, a lot of people are going to go under. Even a lot of big companies probably go under.
Word is spreading quickly among truckers these days about a plan to strike for 2 weeks to try to force intervention to bring prices down and hauling rates up.
I'd like to see the truckers shut down for a couple of weeks and make the people come up on rate to haul.
Tentative dates to stop hauling have been suggested for November 11th or 17th, but most truckers feel an all-out strike couldn't be organized before the end of November, and some say it would be just too hard to organize altogether.
Because it ain't going to happen. People got to go out there, they got to work, they got to pay bills.
Truckers here say something has got to happen soon to control and lower prices, or we're going to be seeing hundreds of independents forced out of business. At a truck stop in Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
I think they're a magnificent animal, and they bring back the essence of the wild to me. To me, nothing more symbolizes the wild in this part of the country more than a wolf. Give and take. It's just like those stars. When you paint certain stars in, fine, but then when you other ones, if it isn't right, you have to come back to it later. You know, you paint them in, but you paint them out.
Well, both the sulfur dioxide, of course, is a contributor to the acid rain problem. And so the permit contains limits for sulfur emissions in order to control that.
What was your position at that time? I was about 4 years. Prior to that, you've had a chance to review what's been... Between the two rails is the victim. Directly to the east of him is his jacket. This is the area here which was shown on the... What position do you currently hold? I detective with the investigation division. Okay. How long have you been with the Fargo Police Department? You've had a chance to review what's been marked for purposes of identification as States Exhibit 3, have you not? Photograph again? Yes. Okay. Yes.
Speak out. And I try to speak out for the constituents and the taxpayers. And I feel that once councilors are elected, they almost become a club. And I do a lot of research. And it is an informed vote.
When you cannot afford television exposure, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to those people I may have missed. And
this definitely has good coverage. Medium here.
Good afternoon.
Could you give me your last name, please?
Story.
Story?
S-T-O-R-E-Y.
Okay. Dale Colby?
Yes.
And the 2 questions, one on each side, and for the school board and for the city council. Thank you very much.
Questions on both sides.
Probably it's not going to change. We'll use the helicopter probably a little bit more efficiently in the daylight and have him tell us at that area there is nothing in there. And at that point, we'll probably call out the search.
By the 31st.
You guys gotta work fast then. What office?
We have a senior level planner.
We want to develop a regional blueprint that we can use for looking at the future and trying to come up with some, you know, we'd like to come up with a plan to obtain those goals.
With a reduction in the number of deaths because of drunk driving, many families are being spared from the tragedy and the types of things that families go through when a family member is killed by a drunk driver. And that's because of Matt.
On any one of your newscasts, you reach more people than we'll reach in public speeches in an entire year. So we are in debt.
Well, I think that anybody who tries to make a long-range prediction beyond 5 days has got as good a chance of being right as I have. And so if I give you a forecast beyond 5 days, my chances of being right are no better than the person watching the show, and so I might as well let them guess for themselves.
I was going to suggest Dave Tomasoni on that committee.
Minnesota Taconites are more competitive long-term, and that means job retention and job enhancement on the Iron Range. I'm very, very pleased that we have been able to achieve that breakthrough.
We had a real nice day today. We opened with 3 runs today, 2 chairlifts. That's pretty good for this time of the year. In spite of the rain, snow was really nice.
First we got out here and it was raining a little bit, so we just were skiing and then we came in the chalet because we were kind of wet. And it's been, I don't know, it's just been pretty good.
Where do you live, Mr. Jardine?
A violent
This family may be retained by the council. Down around $100,000 cash. And missing your bill, you have no copy of it. On his behalf, I would acknowledge receipt of a copy of the complaint dated November 10th, 1993, alleging 1 count of sexual assault and 1 count of attempted murder. At this time, was waiting. Actually, no.
Okay, so it's just off the side.
The book, so it takes us quite a while. That's the way, yeah, we argue a lot. Okay, This is what we've decided up to this point on the Lotus chapter after talking to the students and the faculty and those kind of things.
Okay.
Okay, so we can just give you these. And I think it's also a realization that students actually have the ability to do this and can and are dedicated enough to do it.
I mean, this is not just being in a club. This is really, you're really getting involved and you really have something to talk about.
I mean, these are pretty minor league things, but actually with the Spirit Mountain deal, that's a pretty major account. It's a maybe a $20,000 to $25,000 contract, but still. Employees get incentive packages, and I guess there's about 8, according to the director. Nobody had the raw data or the figures, and the board members made a comment that they really don't set those salaries, that they let the director set all those salaries, so they really didn't know what those people made.
In August, maybe the first week in August.
Russell Smith believes time is of the essence and not to be wasted when it comes to education.
The 2 ingredients in learning are time is a key one and individualization. We've set up a real network in our elementary schools and our labs to individualize teaching and reading and math, and we've made significant progress. We still need more time.
Smith has a plan for creating that time. He wants to have kindergarten through 6th graders attend school 12 months out of the year. A voluntary format would allow students to attend more school if they wanted. It would also provide extra class time for those who need it.
The goal is not to let kids get behind.
Supporters say a year-round program has 2 advantages. It eliminates a long summer vacation where some children forget what they've learned, and it allows kids more time with teachers one-on-one.
We did run a summer program last year, and we thought it really helped students quite a bit. And it showed up in testing, it showed up in behaviors and attitudes in the fall.
The idea behind summer vacation originally was focused around the country's agrarian society. Kids got 3 months off a year to help their parents work on the farm. But times have changed. A decline in farming has given way to a new technological world, one in which U.S. students must compete.
If you look at the number of school days that European schools and Asian schools have, they're looking at 200, 220, 230 days. In our country, most schools have an average of 175 school days. So what I'm saying is, one way or another, I think it's going to take more time.
As you might expect, however, the proposal has been met with mixed reviews.
Well, I don't really like it because then we won't get to play with our friends in the summer and do what we want in the summer.
The program would cost an additional $75,000 a year. Smith admits taxpayers may not go for that. He says to make the program fly, it would probably need state support. In Cloquet, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
Doing this costs more money. So the proposal that we're making.
With time running out, local grocery stores were filled this afternoon with Northland gourmets, checking off their shopping lists in preparation for tomorrow's big day. What is the key to preparing the perfect Thanksgiving feast?
Just remember, it's no big deal.
Sure it's not. No doubt a seasoned veteran there. We decided to ask renowned Northland chef B. Ojakangis to give us some Thanksgiving Day advice.
Plan.
think about it. You can think about it whether you're in bed or what, but once you make your plan, you know that if you only have one oven, you're going to have limited amount of space. I think the one thing that makes or breaks a Thanksgiving meal, though, is whether or not the turkey is cooked properly.
Which means a turkey that doesn't resemble cardboard. Bee says the key to making your bird moist is to cook it slow. The temperature of the white meat should reach about 170 degrees, while the dark meat should be about 180. 160 degrees is the lowest one should go to prevent salmonella. Ronnie Hartley is cooking for 30 this Thanksgiving. Her son Jim plays basketball for UMD, and she's having the entire team over to her place. And just like Bee, she says planning is the key to Thanksgiving Day success.
As long as you plan everything and follow your plan, everything should go pretty smoothly.
Being saddled with the responsibility of cooking the Thanksgiving feast can be a little nerve-wracking, especially if you've never done it before. But if you've got a good bird and a good solid plan, everything should be all right. If not...
Little Caesar's Pizza.
In Duluth, Ted Rowlands, News 6.
People have to be aware that ice is never a consistent thickness. It can be a foot thick in one location and just a couple of inches thick just a few yards away.
In the early morning hours of Wednesday, November 17th, Skip's warehouse sales was burglarized. Footprints showed one person walked to the business from Rice Lake Road. The burglar pried open a window and searched several offices. He then opened the safe with the combination and stole a large amount of Canadian currency, which was mainly in $50 and $100 bills. The burglar needs to exchange that money for American and may try at one of the banks or one of the gaming establishments. If you saw a strange car parked on Rice Lake Road that night or heard about someone who came into a large amount of Canadian money, Crime Stoppers could pay you up to $1,000. We also pay for tips on other crime or criminal information on fugitives. We never reveal who you are. Call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH in the Duluth area. The Crime Stopper Board is made up of Northland volunteers. Call us if you're interested in getting involved.
Basically, everything that has to do with being a teen. It's, I mean, friends, places to go, whether you feel safe there, whether it's legal or not.
I want the input of the young people. You know, I keep hearing that there's nothing for young people to do in this community. It's not a good place for young people. We need to find out why.
Go right ahead.
Can I go right ahead?
I'll have those ready for you.
Yeah, it doesn't help. No, it doesn't.
All over the hill.
Well, it's going to make it tough. I mean, it's anytime you have a large mall close to you, it's going to make it a little tougher, but we're kind of unique because we go for more the friendly atmosphere and community type center.
We wanted to tell you that now we're expecting the crash investigators to arrive about 9:30 because they were flying in. They were supposed to go from Chicago to Hibbing. Apparently they had to land at Duluth. They were grounded there. Now they're driving in some rental cars. We do want to show you the first pictures of the plane that anybody has been able to get. These are exclusive photographs. We sent photographer Dave Dennison on the back of a snowmobile to get these photographs. You get an idea of the terrain in which it crashed into. Again, it was a twin-engine turboprop, a 19-seater. It is a British Aerospace Jetstream. As we said before, the ground that it is covered is in about 50 yards, 75 yards. The plane is in basically two large pieces. As you can tell by the pictures, the snow is extremely heavy, and it's going to probably hamper the work of the crash investigators when they do get on the scene. If you can look closely at the plane, you can see that the fuselage is twisted. There were some reports earlier that the plane was upside down. Basically, the plane is right side up, but the fuselage is twisted. Again, these are exclusive pictures taken by photographer Dave Dennison. And we're about a mile from where these pictures are being taken at this point. He was able to get in on a snowmobile and take those photographs. Again, the crash investigators are going to have to work against that snow and try to pick up the evidence that is available to them, but obviously the snow is going to hamper their work.
The flag outside Sunny Hill Distributing was at half-mast today. Inside, employees of the company, not ready to talk about the incident, mourn the loss of their boss and friend, Bob Taverzi. Don Overwick owns Beltline Liquors. He's a customer of Sunny Hill and a friend of Taverzi's.
The plane crash itself was devastating enough, but then when you know people that are on the plane, it's kind of hard to deal with. Bob Taverzi kind of helped me get this store going a little bit.
Taverzi was just one of the victims from this small, close-knit community who perished last night. Recovering from his loss and the loss of the other residents will take the town of Hibbing a very long time.
I feel so sad for the families. You know, like I was telling Dave earlier, I decorated for Christmas like I do every year. And I have a cross on the back of the house I always put up in lights. Well, I left it on last night, all night, and I will continue to leave it on in memory of those people.
I mean, there's been deaths in town. You know, you can read the obits every day, and there's somebody that you know, it's a small, close-knit town. But this is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So, he's going to be missed.
In Hibbing, Ted Rowlands, News 6.
On a national basis, he is much more important than anyone around here really realizes, I think. So I envision that this museum is going to become really quite a fabulous tourist attraction.
They go to where they can practice near large medical centers, where they could work with top specialists in their profession, where they can make the most money. Most doctors prefer to work in urban areas, and as a result, small communities are in constant need of primary care physicians.
In that there is a tremendous backlog that we have for patients waiting to get in for physicals, for industrial companies trying to get their people in for industrial physicals. So it's a very severe problem.
This man, Dean Johnson, and his group ACT, Action Through Churches Together, decided to try and help Iron Range communities attract physicians. They went to the IRRB and last night received approval for a plan to use monetary incentives to bring in doctors. The plan is as follows. Each physician will receive a $30,000 bonus, $10,000 a year for 3 years, for coming to the Iron Range. At the end of the 3 years, the employer of the new physician will repay the fund $15,000. It's a plan that ACT worked very hard to get approval for.
So I'm very happy that the IRRB has finally, after lots of negotiations, seen fit to fund this program and to make a commitment to getting it started so that we can recruit doctors.
The doctors that are being sought by the incentive plan are doctors that have an interest in rural medicine.
For the pool of people, the 5% of the doctors that have expressed an interest in working in a rural area, this will certainly give them additional incentive.
The program, which is expected to go into effect early next year, will be overseen by the IRRB to ensure the equitable allotment of funds. If the program is successful, it will most likely be extended and even enhanced in years to come. In Virginia, Ted Rollins, News 6.
That's what we're here for, is to reach out to the community, and people know that, and they know what to expect from us, and found their way to our door very quickly.
The proceeds of this particular event will go to various programs throughout the city, whether it's a kaleidoscope at the library or for special education.
I have asked the authority many questions and received very few answers.
Councilor Dorothy Bowman recently tabled Spirit Mountain's budget because she wants to know how many employees are getting paid extra money through an incentive program created by Executive Director Larry Hutchinson.
He finally said he thought 8 or 10.
When that question was asked, and it was somewhat answered, 8 or 10,
Was the city council satisfied with the answer at that point, or did they indicate they wanted to hear exactly? Did they indicate to you?
No, there was no further questions after that. How much is on each individual's W-2 has never actually been specifically asked for.
The proposed 1993-94 budget is $2.7 million. Hutchinson's base salary is...
That salary is way high for the city of Duluth.
He is not being paid with taxpayers' money. His salary is being generated by the Hill. There is a cap on this incentive of $10,000, so he cannot collect more than a $10,000 incentive. Mr. Hutchinson's compensation is based on the success of the Hill. If the Hill does not succeed, he does not make that money.
In 1983, the gross sales were at $800,000. Season ticket holders, 3-month-old.
Everybody would be making money if they could just keep borrowing for their expenses.
That's not a correct analysis of an income statement.
The Mountain borrowed almost $5 million in the... He co-signed the revenue bond.
Without borrowing this money and this revenue bond, they would not be making a profit.
And we took all of that debt that was relatively short-term, and we spread it out over a longer period of time for a lower rate of interest, which brought our payments down.
Right, like refinancing the house.
We refinanced the house.
That is not running in the black. That's running in the red.
The Spirit Mountain Authority is the last budget issue before the City Council. They will meet and discuss the issue this Thursday. A vote is expected. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
When we get to it, it may not be a significant problem with either the design or the system. It may be some small glitch that for some reason we have overlooked, but somebody with an electrical engineering background with the proper equipment can detect.
This mall continues to go forward, and most importantly, the vast majority of Duluthians have consistently said, we do not want an outlet mall on the Bayfront site. I don't know how much more clearly we can say it than that.
Our classrooms decided that during the Advent season that we'd like to make collections and put together some boxes of some products that he had suggested that we give to their schools over there.
That they have come together in a partnership with these other organizations that are also supposed to serve women is even scarier for us, because what they're actually doing is alienating women who are pro-life.
We get names from Social Services Department of needy families, and we give these bicycles to needy children that probably wouldn't have a bike if it wasn't for this program.
"55-year-old Luella Jean Letourneau's disappearance continues to baffle Eveleth police. She was last seen on December 13th visiting her niece in Virginia. Tom Letourneau, her ex-husband, notified officials the following day. Tonight, police would neither confirm or deny foul play.
We're not prepared to release any more information than what we have. As far as foul play, I guess, the latest, it's not really a criminal investigation.
Letourneau's sister, niece, and ex-husband were told by officials not to talk to the press. They are staying at the sister's home in Eveleth, waiting to hear anything. Eveleth is a quiet family community. It has sort of a Disney-esque charm. Some residents now fear for their lives since the disappearance of Luella 6 days ago.
I'm afraid to let my kids go outside. I'm afraid to let them walk a block away.
Deanna Campbell lives in the same apartment complex as Letourneau. She watched investigators comb the area for clues.
Teams of people got out. Everybody looked around. They had a dog. I saw a man with a dog walk around the U.
I am afraid, and we do keep our doors locked. We make it a point now to keep our doors locked.
You didn't do that before?
Well, not as much.
Originally from Oklahoma, Letourneau is 5'6" tall, weighs 120 pounds. She has short, light brown hair with some gray, brown eyes, and wears glasses. She has a heart condition that requires daily medication. If you have seen anyone resembling Luella or have information that might help find her, contact the Eveleth Police, County Sheriffs, or call 911. In Eveleth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
And 60 cents by the new competitor. 3 32-gallon cans. Their material states that they are not part.
And they're losing on the recyclables, aluminum and so forth. But out there to pay for that.
The extra amount for the haulers is not justified, or at the very least, we ask you to reconsider your November 22nd action, but this time do it right. Give advance public notice and hold a public hearing.
Sports Environmental can offer service at this low price.
With several counselors, we learned that the November 17 meeting centered around the increased tipping fee of last January and the fact that the haulers were not paying that additional amount to WLSSD.
"55-year-old Luella Letourneau disappeared last Sunday. Sheriff's investigators have discovered evidence from their ground search linking her to a man who lives in this Lost Lake Road area. That man is not her estranged husband. It was her husband, Tom Letourneau, who notified police of her disappearance.
Well, I can't tell you what evidence, but evidence was developed over the weekend by the investigators through interviews and actual searches that we now believe that there is foul play involved.
7 sheriff's investigators and 2 Eveleth police officials are heading the investigation. They utilized air support as well as ground crews to further their search. This is where Luella was last seen by her niece on December the 13th at about 6:30 in the evening. She dropped by for a visit after dropping her friend off at the Thunderbird Mall to go to work. Luella stayed for about 1 hour, and then she went home. Luella's apartment has since been searched by investigators. Her immediate family is refusing to be interviewed, fearing they'll jeopardize the investigation. But a family friend told News 6 they just want answers.
It doesn't look like they found anything yet. We're still hoping that there's a possibility she'd be alive, but it doesn't look very good at this point. It's hard. You feel like you've been beat up, like somebody's had you in a wrestling match and beating you up for 24 hours, no sleep. How they feel. It's not good for anybody. I know what
by being able to come here, we've been able to keep our house.
As the Chum Emergency Food Shelf opened in its Central Hillside location this morning, business was brisk. The shelf has seen an increase in service of about 7% this year, but for the past 5 months or so, giving has been down significantly.
We were really hoping that at this holiday time we would see those contributions increase significantly, but that just hasn't been the case this year.
With an anticipated deficit of $25,000 as the year ends, the food shelf expects to be forced to reduce the amount of food it will be able to distribute in 1994 unless it receives an increase in cash donations. Since 1980, the Chum Food Shelf has been the primary source of emergency food for low-income families in Duluth. But in recent years, other organizations like the Salvation Army have stepped up their food assistance programs to meet the growing need in their area.
We see most of our clients coming from this area. In talking with other service providers and other public officials in this region, we're seeing a growing level of poverty in this part of Duluth.
The Salvation Army's food pantry and hot lunch program in West Duluth has seen an increase of about 15% this year. The Damiano Soup Kitchen saw virtually no increase in 1993, while the Union Gospel Mission has seen an increase of about 15%, but with expansions in the types of programs they're offering. Spokespeople indicate these increases could mean there are more needy, but they might also indicate a spreading out of the places people are going to be helped.
Emergency assistance spokespeople say a significant portion of their clients walk to gain services, and research now indicates the majority of people are being served within their own neighborhoods. At the food shelf in downtown Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Obviously, you can't say that that's exactly what happened, but we got rid of all the other variables we could, and the only other major variable was the Cub Foods coming to town.
Until the mid-70s, when a doctor needed to look inside a patient for disease or injury, the choice was often limited to either conventional x-rays or surgery. But in recent years, ultrasound units, magnetic resonance imaging, and computed tomography scanners have revolutionized medicine.
The medical technology that's in this room is used for diagnosis and treatment of vascular diseases of the brain and spinal cord, and it would be impossible to treat any of these diseases without this equipment.
But while the equipment does save lives, it has also driven costs sky high. But scientists are now coming up with smaller units that do virtually the same thing, much as they did with computers years ago. That is slowly bringing prices down.
For example, 9 years ago, when we purchased the scanner that produced these images, we spent approximately $1.3 million per scanner. Today, CAT scanners with the same level of performance can be purchased for about $400,000.
On the east and west coasts, prices for such high-tech scans have already begun to come down for patients. But here in the Twin Ports, there's been no decrease in prices for MRI tests, and CAT scan prices have actually gone up. Spokesmen say they don't see that changing anytime soon, because to lower prices, they would have to buy the newer, smaller, higher-tech equipment. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Pretty exciting. He kind of gets gypped out of Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, though. Yeah.
As evidenced by a foggy Lake Superior, Mother Nature has been relentless with sub-zero temperatures lately, making it difficult for many to get around. Even the ships seem to be frozen in time. But yet, thousands of shoppers took to the stores this morning, paying no attention to our Arctic-like temperatures.
We probably saved about $125, maybe $150.
What percentage were you saving in there?
It's all half off.
I have a big family. I have 5 kids, so you have to look for bargains. So that's.
And you're finding them today?
Quite a bit.
I'm also due to have a baby in about 2.5 months, so I'd like to kind of get things stocked up at home too in preparation for that.
I don't know, it's just kind of a tradition. We always go up the day after Christmas.
Well, it's usually a madhouse after Thanksgiving, but I think it's a worse madhouse after Christmas.
One area of the store that saw more action today than the day after Thanksgiving is the return counter. Many shoppers found a way to anonymously get rid of those presents Santa may have made a mistake on.
Some shoes, I had to get a different size.
Size problems?
Yeah.
Not a fashion problem?
No. Yeah.
Are you taking advantage of the 50% sales today?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get some Christmas wrapping and stuff like that for next year.
You just haven't had enough shopping yet, huh?
No.
For those of you who chose to stay home and stay warm, don't worry about missing out on the sales of the century. New Year's and Valentine's is just around the corner, and maybe by then it'll warm up a bit. Probably not. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Well, I think the guarantee starts right with the groomers themselves. I think their personality and their equipment all goes into the texture of the snow, and I think that they're pretty proud of the fact that they have a perfect blanket of snow each morning.
It does feel different, and I know that, and I've identified that before with other people telling me, things are better. We have our life and our health, and that's important.
If people leave their keys in their cars, they can expect problems, especially if a young person who's not a car thief walks by, they might just take a chance and take that vehicle. And there is a $20 fine for leaving your keys in your car. And if the car is parked illegally, your car can be towed at the same time, so it's expensive.
Actually, they went in the ditch and the one across the...
The combination of credit cards and Christmas shopping doesn't seem to be as merry when the bill comes in the mail. Credit counselors see a lot of clients this time of year, and the most common question asked is, where did all my money go?
I think a lot of it is in that day-to-day expense area. There are a lot of people don't track that money very closely. Money gets spent. As you need it, you buy it.
That type of impulse buying is only magnified during the holiday season. Credit counselors say shoppers using charge cards often fail to compare prices and outspend their budgets. But that doesn't mean credit cards are inherently bad.
They do make things more convenient. They can provide things like reservations and that, but they can enable a person to get in trouble a lot quicker.
To stay out of credit card trouble, don't charge beyond your limit. Look for cards with lower interest rates, make more than just the minimum payments, and avoid taking cash advances. Credit counselors suggest participating in Christmas clubs and billing plans with your utility company to fight the winter budget crunch. In Duluth, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
There's a new appreciation for the arts. I think that we can attribute to some of that to the fact that the school district and the statewide cuts have caused elimination of some of the art curriculum in the schools.
This $178,000 was a special grant.
I believe that National Steel is getting the message that labor relations are not going to return to normal anywhere in that corporation until NSPC is reopened.
But the principal purpose is one of streamlined communication and administration, since now there are 2 middle managers instead of 5.
A second thinner.
State Auditor Mark Dayton began his remarks to the school board by commending them for requesting an audit of district finances. But Dayton advised board members and administration that the time for crisis management had passed. A review of district finances released in this 150-page report offered little new information, although the state auditor's office said the school district may continue to face financial difficulties for several years. What most everyone came to hear last night, though, was the report from the state auditor's special investigative unit on alleged misconduct.
The special report that we're presenting to you tonight is going to reopen some old wounds, and I think may cause some pain.
Almerall's team of auditors investigated 23 charges and complaints and found 8 specific violations. Board members were guilty of retroactive expense payments, ineffective oversight of Superintendent Reginald Nolan, and one board member had violated board ethics. Superintendent Nolan was cited for spending money without approval in 3 instances, refusing to sign a document, and offering employment without approval.
And quite frankly, as a leader, if I'm going to take the system into the 21st century with what we have when we have old policies that are outdated, I'm going to violate policy. And I look at
Nolan says the school district has 514 written policies, more than half over 20 years old. As for recommendations on how to solve board and administration conflicts, the auditor's office recommends clearly established board and superintendent responsibilities, improved communication, levels of budget approval, and above all, an outside consultant to work on establishing team development. School district officials have taken the audit under review, but say they've already taken the steps necessary to correct many of the violations cited in the report. Duke Skorich, News 6.
We'll have Dale. Dale, Morgan? Is he around?
And it's still true today. The knowledge and opportunity to take with us this humanistic way of thinking. And with this, everyone. And that is why we are here today.